Gentleman from Illinois, then I think the gentleman from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm going to speak on the cash bail subject when the second bill comes up. But this morning, I feel compelled to speak on the tragic incident that occurred in Minneapolis yesterday, the tragic killing of Renee Good. I do so mindful of the fact that two of the first shootings by ICE agents, CBP agents, that occurred in this country occurred in my district last year, last summer. First, it was a father of two who had just dropped off his two children at school, was approached by ICE agents, terrified. As he sought to leave the area, he was shot and killed. Then came the shooting of a young woman, a U.S. citizen, shot 5 times, accused by Secretary Noem, by other officials, of terrorist activity. Serious federal charges that could have resulted in decades of time in prison. She was a teacher. She is a teacher at a Montessori school. What happened with those charges? They've been dropped, as have other cases of serious charges that have been brought about in my community alone. Almost half of the charges against people have been dropped already. Why is this happening? Because the stated policy is to prioritize the removal of dangerous criminals from immigrant communities, but that isn't what's happening. What's happening is that the aggressive enforcement of legislation that's targeting certain communities is causing terror and grief and fear and trauma to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. It's happening because of the following. Rogue federal agents under the leadership of Secretary Noem, Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, are trampling on people's constitutional rights like we haven't seen in decades, perhaps in the history of our country. They are engaging in obscene ethnic and racial profiling. They are denying due process to people when apprehended. They are masked with military-grade weapons, cussing at people, ordering people to do things, treating people like dirt. U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, people under color of law, veterans. Why is this happening, this indiscriminate treatment of people in communities? And 5,
I think it'll just seem weird what I'm going to say.
the attempted deployments of the National Guard in certain cities and states, thanks to the intervention of the court and the actions of Democratic attorneys general, that's been halted for the moment because it was unconstitutional, it was illegal. And lastly, the illegal denial of members of Congress to do oversight. We were prevented from doing that in Chicagoland. 4 members of Congress, we took our IDs, we had our pins, we identified ourselves. We were denied that. We had to wait for lawsuits that endured 6 months to have the ability to finally do our job and oversight. So this is why I speak out on this issue, because it's a terrible precedent in our country's history. It will be a shameful episode as we tell the history of America, because we've trampled on the Constitution. We've violated what has been established law in our country, And we've engaged in Gestapo tactics of federal agents that have been encouraged to violate the Constitution and trample on the rights of people in communities all over our country. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Florida.